Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Friday, September 22nd. This is episode 28. I'm Matt Roy, joined once again by Zack Hedrick. He is our Cowboys reporter. He will, for the most part. You've been to the first two.
It seems lofty.
You're not going to Arizona because, why?
Yeah. Well, and it got interesting with the big breaking news that we had yesterday, but I still think Cowboys should be all right.
Yeah, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. So this is episode 28. 28, who does it for you? Who you think of when you think of the number 28? There's some good ones for 28.
Yeah, there are. It begins and ends for me with Adrian Peterson.
Can we get a close up on the OU shirt here?
Hey, it is Friday before a college football Saturday. Come on. No, it begins and ends with him. What he did. There is a jersey at the Switzer Center at OU that, it's the non-contact. It's red, but it's got blue numbers in 28 and everything. So it's like when you have a piece of memorabilia like that at a place like OU because of the freshman season that you had and also the career that he had there too. He kind of dropped off after breaking out on the scene his freshman year, but, you look what he did at the NFL. Sure, he's got his off-field stuff,
right?
And, everything there, which of course don't want to ignore that. That's always kind of been an issue for Adrian after he got out. But still, he's up there. He's like third, fourth all time. For rushing touchdowns and yards.
I try and think about it. I think he has 126 all-time touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where he ranks in terms of running backs all time because, for me, he's probably the second, first or second best running backs I've ever seen in my life besides LT.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's only in the last 20
for
years
this
or
generation.
So. For our generation, he's
up
probably
there.
one or two.
Yeah.
But when you start ranking him in the Walter Paytons, the Emmitt Smiths, the Barry Sanders,
Jim Brown.
Yeah, the Jim Browns. I don't know where he kind of stacks up. He'll never. He'll always have, or at least until it's broken, the 296-yard game against the Chargers with the Vikings. So
right, I think, he'll have some records. That record may stand for a little bit, just the way running backs are going right now. But I don't think he's on the Mount Rushmore of running backs for the NFL all time.
But it's kind of crazy that he might be the last great one that we see for a while just because of the climate that the NFL is in right now. Adrian Peterson might be that last workhorse back besides Derrick Henry.
Right.
Derrick Henry is one of those two, but he's the last one in the top echelon of running backs that's going to be in that own little private room in the Hall of Fame somewhere.
One, because you mentioned workhorse, it's just because he's been at it for so long. He's been able to keep that production up.
And technically he's still not retired. He still hasn't put his name in there, even though he's gone around to where's he been on now? The Saints, the Seahawks, the Commanders. He's been around.
A little bit.
Getting there.
Yeah, he's knocked around a little.
Other names I had written down, which are also pretty good ones, Darrell Green, Marshall Faulk, Buster Posey, solid one. Darren Woodson, if you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
And then in Greeny's book, I forget what it's called, but he assigns a number to everybody. 28 was assigned to Michael Phelps because Michael Phelps has 28 medals.
Yeah, makes
23,
sense.
23 golds, the most decorated Olympian of all time. So 28, if you're thinking in terms of who does the number belong to, I guess you could make an argument for Michael Phelps. But if you're just strictly thinking jersey number, Adrian Peterson's the one that comes to mind.
Yeah. Another one that is probably a little bit more on the random side, Prince Fielder, 28 for the Brewers. That's very, very fringe.
Yeah. Nolan Arenado, he's with the Cardinals right now.
Yeah.
We could keep going. It's fine. We got a big show today. We got the UTSA Roadrunners heading to Knoxville with the showdown against the 23rd ranked Tennessee Volunteers. Longhorns in Waco taking on Baylor. The Aggies at home taking on Auburn. ESPN's Mel Kiper coming out with prospect rankings, and it's littered with Texas stars. So kind of speaks to their depth. So we'll check those out as well. But first, we got to get to the Cowboys. Bad news. Bad news Thursday with Trayvon Diggs coming out. He tore his ACL in practice on one-on-ones. We don't need to get into why they're doing one-on-ones in the regular season. Apparently, Ben DiNucci doesn't agree with it, but it's a huge blow for that Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I saw that Ben DiNucci tweet. I mean, coming from a guy who is no longer with the club and
Right.
has knocked around the XFL and everything like that. Sure, maybe a little pot shot there from a former Cowboy. But,
Right.
I mean, McCarthy actually, on that note of one-on-one drills, he was on a Dallas radio station talking about that. And just real quickly, I don't want to read word for word, but McCarthy was talking. There's skill development, and that always goes on, especially with limited time in training camp. One-on-one drills are something that defensive back and receivers need. So, I'm not trying to defend Mike McCarthy. I come down, whether it's like you do one-on-one drills or not, I come down more on the side of, yeah, I think maybe you do need them just because, yeah, you only get so much time. And sure, Trayvon Diggs and all the receivers for the Cowboys, they have plenty of game experience, right? But to get those full-speed reps, I mean, McCarthy has talked about it. The reason why they feel like they're so good is because they've been able to go against each other and practice against each other. So if you don't get that in practice, when it happens in a game, then it's like, okay, yeah, now you're playing catch-up.
Right. And, like, there's something to say about, like, how short training camp is now, and you only get so many reps, so you have to continue to do it throughout the season. Mm-hmm. So one of these things just happen. Like, it's not something that they could have done. They didn't do that one-on-one rep. It could have been on 7-on-7 that he turns wrong and he goes down.
Yeah.
Like, these things are just freak things that happen. So I feel bad for Trayvon, but
and Steven, yeah, it is a gut punch. I mean, it's awful. Steven
especially
Jones
coming off of that contract that you
yeah, no, and McCarthy's talking about it. He's like, Trayvon was the best he's ever seen him at the start of this season.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was great. And yeah, it stinks. I mean, the Stephen Jones, the vice president, was talking here on a local radio station yesterday afternoon, just talking about, yeah, he took an awkward step. It torqued the wrong way. It was very similar to the DeMarvion Overshown injury, which just, you're out making a play, and it's like you said, one of those freak things. No explanation to it. It just sucks.
Yeah, I think Steven was on with Jason and Joe over at 94.1. Mm-hmm. Shout out guys on the Blitz. It does bring into question the depth of the team, though. Like, we've been speaking about their depth forever. Like, they're a deep team. They're a fast defense. They play in unison. They play off of one another. The defensive line helps out the linebackers, who help out the secondary. When you lose that top guy, it's not like losing Micah, because Micah is on another level.
Sure.
But, like, when you lose the top guy who was learning so much playing across from Stephon Gilmore, was finally getting some looks his way to be able to make plays instead of completely avoiding him like they've done in the past. Now you have Deron Bland, who has to step in, who led the team in interceptions last year and is a good player, but maybe not on Trayvon Diggs' level yet. And then you have Jordan Lewis, who probably has to step into the slot now. And then Noah
Igbenogany.
Yeah, that. I almost got there. And then you have Noah, who has to step in and be that fourth corner now. And then Stephon Gilmore, at his advanced age, now has to step up and kind of be that leader in the secondary. So it kind of just morphs and changes a lot of roles.
I know Cowboys fans may be thinking, oh boy, the dominoes are starting to fall, but really, I think, let's see what happens after Sunday. Again, the big test is coming in a couple weeks when they go out to San Francisco.
Yeah.
But you touched on the guys that are going to be stepping up. Deron Bland, they're really high on him. Jordan Lewis coming back from injury, they've been really high on him too. So they have some position flex with guys, and there's, once Donovan Wilson comes back and gets back into the fold at the safety spot, they'll have more guys there. And who knows? You mentioned Jordan Lewis too. That's a guy that's again, coming back from injury. We'll see how they get him back and work him into the fold and everything. But Cowboys fans need to trust Will McClay that they've got the right guys in the personnel group to roll them out there, put them in front of Dan Quinn and say, okay, these are your guys. And, Dan Quinn has been punching all the right buttons so far. So, and third year in the system, everybody kind of knows their role and what they need to do.
I think it's my belief, too, that if they come out, let's say, on the next 2 weeks against the Arizona and against the Patriots, and maybe even against the Niners, and they get gashed through the air, and the Trayvon injury seems to be something that's really exposing their secondary, Steven and Jerry both believe in this team enough to go get somebody. Like they're not going to be afraid to go make a move either, especially with this team.
Yeah, they always say, we're always looking to improve the roster.
Yeah,
I don't
coach
know.
speak.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the secondary where they're going to be necessarily doing that. Here's something else that's going to help out the secondary. You got a great pass rush.
Yeah.
Yes, you can still get down the field, maybe 15, 20 yards down the field in 2 seconds, but you aren't taking deep shots, unless you got a run game or something like that. So when you have a front that has Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, Osa Odigizua, the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
Good luck opposing quarterbacks. I mean, it's like you don't have that much time to hold the ball.
Right. And I mean, I'm on records as just saying is when Trayvon got this, or when everyone was trying to get their deals and Trayvon got his deal, like if you were going to not re-sign somebody, I would have not re-signed Trayvon just because of his playmaking ability, but also giving up those huge pass plays and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I feel like he gambles a little too much. However, he's having one of the best seasons he's had, given the competition's not that great. I mean, he's only allowed 3 catches on 31 yards when he's covering the receiver who's targeted. So he's having a great year and proving everybody why he deserved the money. So I don't want I might not have wanted to give him the money in the first place if I was the Cowboys, but he's kind of proven that he deserved it over the first 2 games and how he's conducted himself throughout training camp.
No doubt. Yeah. No. And he showed some physicality too.
Yeah.
Which I've always felt was kind of lacking, and fans kind of, he's afraid to kind of stick his nose in there, but he's done that so far. So, hopefully speedy recovery, and that he can get back. And, he tweeted out yesterday, it's like, I will be back and better, for next year. So.
Yeah, and there was an outpouring of love for him as well. He's universally loved on his team. So it kind of did suck as well, though. I saw that his birthday was on the 20th, on Wednesday. And then he was
the day before.
Yeah, the day before. And last night he bought himself a box in AT&T Center to go see Beyonce.
Yeah.
And instead he's on the table getting operated on. So that sucks.
It's just a bad break all the way around.
He had a silver outfit and everything. Like he was super prepared. It does go to say a little bit about the injuries, though. Tyler Biotish also injured the hammy. They say, Adam Schefter's sources say that he's going to be okay. But my biggest question coming into this season for the Cowboys was their offensive line depth.
Sure.
They're very top-heavy. A lot of the guys that back up Biotish and Martin and Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith and all those guys, they're not very experienced. They don't have those big league reps yet. Right. So let's say Biotish can't go this week. It's the Cardinals, and I hate that we keep talking about an NFL team like, it's the Cardinals. They're not very good. They can't win this game because anything can happen on any given Sunday. But I think we all assume that no matter who's out, unless it's everybody, that they're going to win this game on Sunday. The offensive line depth is starting to give me some pause with how many injuries and how many minor injuries they've had so far this season.
Right. Nagging injuries to start, and yeah, you're right. The depth has been, but through 2 games so far, they've kind of held their own. The one veteran guy, Chuma Edoga, has really kind of filled in well at that left guard spot for Tyler Smith. And then also TJ Bass, he's kind of filled in when I guess Zack Martin got rolled up on his ankle or something like that. So, so far they've held their own. Now, yes, the injuries, it's kind of, they're on the razor's edge of, that stack of cards come crumbling down.
Right.
If one guy goes out with a season ender like Trayvon does. But by everything that I've seen, Biotish should be good to go. Cowboys aren't practicing today. It's more of a light day. They then do like a walkthrough before flying out to Arizona tomorrow. So everything, though, the indications are that he should be good to go. Martin is one of the tough guys where it's just like, hey, if I'm practicing Saturday, that means I'm going to be on the field Sunday. And then all signs have been pointing to Tyler Smith being good to go and getting the green light for Sunday too. So again, we'll see what actually happens on Sunday when they roll it out at 3:25 in the afternoon. But they might have their first full frontline offensive line ready to go for this Sunday.
It's still concerning though when you have, I think all 5 starting linemen have been on an injury report in the first 3 weeks.
It is.
And Tyler Smith obviously has missed a few games.
Right, and his first games ever, so they're wanting to err on the side of caution with him, just not wanting to rush him back since this was his first kind of go being on the injury list. But I think, everybody should be good to go. Tyron Smith is the one where it's just kind of like, okay, now that's when things start getting dicey because then you have to slide Tyler out to left tackle. Chuma then probably goes into that left guard spot. Then you really hope that no more injuries happen because then it gets really, really dicey.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last bit of news this week was, did you know Micah wants to play tight end?
I did. Well, I did not. I saw that where he's like, yeah, I got to rep at tight end, and he's joking around like, oh, Coach McCarthy wasn't really pleased with my route and stuff like that. With the changes at running back, Micah he played running back in high school.
Yeah.
And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if the Cowboys gave him a chance at running back, down in the goal line situation? It's like, you need a big body. You need a bruiser.
If Dontari Poe can do it, Micah Parsons can do it.
Well, and Micah's just a football player.
Right.
He is truly one of the positionless guys in the NFL right now. So why not try that? I'm sure at some point we will see Micah line up at tight end. As like a, it's who's the guy for the Patriots? No, not Minkovich. It starts with an M.
Mike Vrabel? Mike Vrabel used to do it.
Yeah, so Vrabel, I think Minkovich might have done it too or something like that after Vrabel.
They have a lot of those guys.
They had those linebackers who, did the tight end thing and everything. Yeah. So I think, they'll do it at some point, kind of like they did with Terrence Steele a couple years ago, catching a touchdown pass.
Well, like J.J. Watt used to do that with the Texans all the time. Yeah. He would line up at tight end. I think he's caught like 8 touchdowns in his career.
If Micah Parsons is truly in the running midway through the season for MVP of the whole entire league, they'll roll him out there. And it's like, hey, you need to catch a couple touchdowns too.
Well, I mean, his odds for MVP. So I was paying attention to this a little bit earlier this week. His odds for MVP at the start of the week were like 100 to 1, like 10 plus 10,000 odds. His odds to win MVP right now are 35 to 1, like 3,500 odds. Like if he has all the fanfare, he has all of the talent. Defenses or offenses literally plan around him and where he is lined up. He is the biggest difference maker on defense in the entire league outside of maybe TJ Watt has an argument around that as well. Right. Why can't he win MVP? No defensive players won MVP since Lawrence Taylor in the 80s, but why can't he?
I don't see any reason. I mean,
especially if he's playing tight end.
Well, and with this Diggs injury, it's another chance. It's like, okay, Diggs went down, and then look, he even stepped up his game more. Again, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks because it's just like, if he gets shut out a little bit, then it's kind of like, then that'll go away. But he definitely has the skill set and the tools to do it.
And I think I saw a quote from Jerry a little earlier. He's like, what else do you want the guy to do? He's like,
because he's thinking, oh boy, I got to pay this guy.
Right. He's like, all right, just add another million on, add another million on.
Or 10.
Right. So, I mean, I think that if I put the over under this season on 1.5 touchdowns scored by Micah Parsons, would you take the over or the under on 1.5 touchdown scores on offense, not just on defense?
Okay, because I was going to take the over because he's going to score a touchdown on defense for sure.
Oh yeah, he's been this close already.
I'd probably go under. I'd say maybe he scores 1 because again, as soon as he runs out there, then the entire defense is keying on him. Because it's like, okay, we got another playmaker on the field. Why else would they have him out here other than to, throw the ball to him?
They're not sneaking him onto the field. They're not sneaking 11 onto a tight end.
I mean, how would you? I mean, it's not like he's hiding behind Deuce Vaughn or something like that.
I don't think anybody could hide behind Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah.
Our guy Yuli couldn't hide behind Deuce Vaughn. So as far as the game goes on Sunday, last Cowboys topic before we get some college football. The Cowboys are favored by 12. How do you think the game goes?
I think again, it's another opportunity for the offense to really kind of show that they can, control the game. Josh Dobbs, they did have some issues with again, and I think that might be the Cowboys' Achilles heel as far as defense goes, a mobile quarterback who can get outside the pocket, extend some plays a little bit if they can't get home with that pass rush. We saw it in the Tennessee game last year, but, the Cowboys went on to go ahead and win that one. So, I think the Cowboys will be okay. Again, the defense will be interesting to see how everybody responds. But I think the Cowboys shouldn't have any issues. It should be a 2-score. But, see, this is where I'm kind of like, because everybody's picking them. Like all the pundits and experts and stuff, everybody's going, oh, Cowboys got, whatever.
Right.
That's when the NFL sneaks up and goes, got you.
That's when weird stuff happens.
That's when we sneak one in, last second field goal, and there you go.
Well, I mean, that's the feeling I had about last night's game, the Giants and the Niners. Everybody was on the Niners. The Niners were favored, I think, by 10.5 points last night. Mm-hmm. Every single person, every personality, every NFL analyst, everybody who has a microphone in front of them picked the Niners, except for like 2 or 3 people on a couple of websites that I follow.
Right.
And all the bets were on the Niners as well. I think it was like 81% of the public money was on the Niners last night. So everyone's like, "Oh God, here we go."
Right.
Here's the Giants, but the Giants are just so bad. I think the Cardinals are just that bad, even though they're 2-0 against the spread this season, and they almost beat the Giants. The Giants suck, and Arizona sucks too.
Yeah, and the whole storyline is like the Arizona's making the play for Caleb Williams and stuff like that. Tanking and everything. I don't know how much faith you put into that storyline and everything. I really do think this is a chance for Dak Prescott to prove, and again, he doesn't have to go out and throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, but if he can just facilitate the offense and have a clean game again and just show, hey, yes, we did lose one of our stars, but we're going to be just fine.
Traditionally, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys beat up on bad teams. Like they don't normally trip up. Last season against the Texans, they almost lost as big favorites. But I think I was listening to something this morning. I could get this wrong, but I think it's Dak as a double-digit favorite is 26-12-1 ATS, which is against the spread. So he covers that number normally. So, I mean, they usually beat up on bad teams. I would think that they're going to beat up on Arizona. I don't know how much the Trayvon Diggs injury in the middle of the week kind of messes up the game plan at all. Mm-hmm. When it comes to handling Josh Dobbs and the weapons that they do have, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz, Marquise Brown. They have a horrible offensive line, which
again plays into the Cowboys' defensive line.
Is going to get eaten alive. I mean, I can't imagine that Arizona comes within 20 points of this game.
And this goes to show, like, the Cowboys' defense, it's just like, it's a little emotional loss, losing Diggs and everything, but they can come out and just be like, hey, we're still pretty good. It's like we have something to prove too. We're missing one of our best guys, but it's like we can still do this with the boys that we got. So
people are going to find motivation anywhere they can.
Right.
So both of us think they win. Do they cover the 12?
Sure. Yeah, right. I think it'll be like 30, kind of maybe similar to what we saw with the Jets.
Yeah.
So 28-10, 30-10, somewhere around there.
My prediction for the Jets game was 28-10. I'm going to say this one was like 31-13.
Uh-huh.
I'm just throwing a number out there. That would hit the over, and I think the over-under is 43. But let's get to UTSA.
All right.
UTSA traveling to Knoxville, take on the Volunteers. Frank Harris, game time decision.
Right.
If you're Jeff Traylor, do you even play him?
It is interesting. I mean, knowing the player that Frank is, he's going to want to play. It's the same thing with Trey Moore. It's like they really want to play in these big games and everything like that. But something that Jeff Traylor said after the Army game is, we're getting ready. Temple, that trip to Philadelphia is kind of what we're eyeballing and everything. They have a bye week after this game against the Vols. This is a chance to rest up Frank, get everybody right, get everybody rested. So then by the time the American Conference schedule rolls around, these guys are ready to go.
I know it's not something that you can really predict, but the injury bug always hits UTSA. So there's a part of me that says, why rest him? Because there's no guarantee that Frank or Trey or whoever is going to be healthy the rest of the season anyway.
True.
But also, you're making up $1.6 million from this game. Like, win or lose, you're making a 1.6 from just playing Tennessee. They're 21.5-point favorites. They're going to be hungry as hell because they just lost to Florida.
Right.
So I just don't. I don't know. Like, what's the line there where you play your guys and you want to try and win a game against an SEC opponent like you tried to do last year against Texas, and trying to maintain some semblance of a season in conference play? What's the line?
And it's something that Jeff really, I don't know if it's a line that they're willing to jump over. I mean, something that Jeff Traylor said during this week was just kind of like, look, we're not going up there with the upset in mind. It's like, we're going up there to play UTSA football. We're not going to delve into the bag of tricks and try and do something crazy and, oh, look at us. No, we're going to go up there and stick to the triangle, which is stopping the run, taking care of the football, and play good special teams. They've already got the mindset of we're looking to the American Conference schedule. So it's like, if we do that, great. And if we win, even better. But it's like, we're going to go and play our brand of football so we can work on what we need to work on to get ready for the conference schedule.
I also might want to start Eddie Lee Marburger just because, like, we're very aware that the Frank Harris reign is coming to an end soon.
Right, yeah.
And, like, why not get Eddie Lee? I mean, especially if Frank is like a 50-50 game time decision, a true game time decision,
right?
Why not start Eddie just to kind of get him some experience and also protect your quarterback? It's kind of a twofold there.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting two benefits. One, you're getting Frank a little healthier, and two, you're getting Eddie some actual game reps against an SEC opponent.
And there was talk, too, from Traylor, like last week against Army, they wanted to get Luke McCown into the game, too. They couldn't just because they only ran like 50-some-odd plays or something like that. So if they can get more offensive production on the field, you might even see Luke McCown out there, too.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, when the team you're playing has like 45 minutes of possession, it's hard to it's hard to get players on the field.
But this is one of the, like, of course they played Texas last year. They've played talented teams before, but Coach Traylor said it. It's like, this is by far, they've got NFL talent all over. The Vols do. So this is going to be a good test for us just to kind of stack up against these guys who can ball out.
It's going to be a test as well because, like, Milton's got a cannon on him at Tennessee, so seeing how the DBs hold up against that kind of offense coming off the Army game where it's a completely different set of offense.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing a lot of different offenses, a lot of different defenses, a lot of different looks as you get ready for conference play. So I don't think Frank's going to play, and I am pretty sure UTSA is going to get waxed just because they want to get ready for conference play, but I hope that neither of those things is true.
Right. It's a big accomplishment if they keep it within 2 scores.
Yeah, I mean, the spread is 21.5. So I if they can cover, if they can keep it close, that'd be a pretty big accomplishment against Tennessee. I was surprised to see, because I don't think I knew this until this week, that UTSA's never beat a ranked opponent.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back.
I think they're like 0-13. Because Troy was ranked when they played them in the bowl game last year, and they were 23.
Right.
And they didn't end up winning that game. But yeah, they've never beat a ranked opponent, which this would be a hell of a win. First win.
It would be. But and again, going back to, we've kind of flogged the dead horse a little bit now, but Jeff Traylor was asked, hey, you guys are 21-point dogs and going into Tennessee. What would it mean to this program to get a win over Tennessee? And deadpan, Traylor just replied, it means we're 2-2. Like, just, he's, it's not, again, there's no big vision of, oh, yeah, we're going to, it's, hey, we're here to do our job and get better.
I love Jeff.
So.
I love Jeff. So let's get to Mel Kiper ranking. So Mel Kiper, draft analyst, Mel Kiper Jr., over at ESPN, came up with his latest prospect rankings for the 2024 NFL draft, littered with Longhorns. Not a lot of Aggies, not a lot of Roadrunners on there, not even a lot of Horned Frogs on there, but Longhorns. Quinn Ewers ranked 14th overall in the 4th quarterback. Can you guess who he was behind?
Oh, gosh. Well, so Caleb Williams.
Williams.
Bo Nix?
No, 5th.
Okay. So close.
No, 6th. Leonard from Duke was 5th.
Okay. I'm trying to think of some other quarterbacks here.
I'll give you Drake May.
Okay, yeah, North Carolina.
He's 2, and then there's a very popular number 3.
Oh, Shadur.
Yeah. Shadur was 3rd overall on Kuiper's quarterback rankings right now, which is wild, seeing as to where he started the year. But
I mean, Shadur was doing it even at Jackson State too. So
doing it.
Yep.
Jalen Ford, he's the 6th-ranked off-ball linebacker for the Longhorns right now. Jatavion Sanders, 2nd-ranked tight end in the class of 2024. And Xavier Worthy, the 6th-ranked receiver, 24th overall. What does that say about the talent of Texas right now? I mean, they are just loaded as the number 3 team in the country.
I mean, look, Steve Sarkisian doing a heck of a job recruiting, obviously getting ready for that move to SEC. So I wouldn't expect, it's kind of no surprise that they have this, and now it's like the whole thing was, could they actually develop it? Because before the start of this season, Sarkisian was what, 13 and 12? Like they were a 500 team during his tenure so far. So now that they're actually developing it and getting these guys some recognition and everything, beating Alabama, of course, a big feather in their cap. So it's a good thing, and it's just going to help keep bringing in more talent because, I mean, the more wins you rack up, I feel like that just goes to show, we've got it going right now, so you need to come and jump on the wagon.
Well, there's a couple of things that, like, Sark has proved that he recruits his ass off. He's done it since he was at Washington. He did it at USC. He's done it everywhere he's gone. He did it at Alabama when he was there. He recruited, I mean, just loads of talent in the quarterback room, especially. And so now that he's at Texas, who has just the unlimited amount of resources when it comes to NIL and when it comes to their facilities and everything that comes along with Longhorn football, it's like he's just proving how good of a recruiter and how good of a coach he can be.
Right.
So it's kind of cool to see that he's taking a program that was like dead in the water a couple of years ago and is now number 3 in the country. And it also says to me that they're going to be competitive when they actually move to the SEC next year.
Yeah, I think so. They look like they're taking that step, especially up front. I mean, SEC, it all starts on the line, both offensively and defensively. You have to be able to get home with just 4, maybe 5-man rushes because, if the way at least Alabama has done it, moving to the more spread attack, they can smash mouth you a little bit, but it's like you got to be able to cover too, and you have to get home quickly to put pressure on those SEC quarterbacks.
Yeah, and getting to their game this week, I mean, they're opening a Big 12 play. They play in Waco against Baylor, 14.5-point favorites. Chuck's been saying this for a month and a half now, that as soon as they get into Big 12 play, these Big 12 teams are going to be rearing to go to try and show them what they're leaving behind.
Yeah.
Do you think that's kind of how it's going to be? Like Baylor, this isn't the best Baylor team we've ever seen. They lost to Texas State as 21.5-point favorites or 24.5-point favorites, whatever they were. I mean, this isn't the best Baylor team we've ever seen, but I could see them giving a game to the Longhorns, especially through 3 quarters, just because, like, you can play on that emotion.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, really, the Big 12 has been given Texas and, by extension, Oklahoma their best shot ever since they announced, hey, see you later, we're going to the SEC. Everybody has been just ragging on them and trying to bring them down and give them nice parting gifts and a swift kick in the rear out the door as they go. So, yeah, they're definitely going to get their best shot. And conference play always kind of, it seems to even the playing field a little bit just because, these teams know each other so well, playing them each year and everything. I don't think, and Texas, I think, got a wake-up call a little bit against Wyoming. I mean, going to the fourth quarter, tied 10 before it, got out of hand, and they kind of gave themselves some breathing room a little bit. I don't think they'll have any issues with Baylor because you touched on it. Baylor is, let's be frank, not a very good team this year. Dave Aranda, I don't know what happened. It's kind of weird because he turned it around real quick and then they kind of regressed back to the mean a little. So.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a good coach. He's proven that.
Yes.
And all that. It's just not a good team.
Yeah.
And Texas, all things being equal, should roll.
Yeah.
And they should win this by 3-4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But you never know in conference play.
Yeah.
You really don't. you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the script's going to be. Like, you don't know how Dave Aranda might pull out all the stops and pull out a weird onside kick or go for it on a 4th and 15 in his own side of the field. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen because this is their Super Bowl.
Right.
So I think that the Longhorns will win. I think they will cover. I think they'll probably win by 21.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be close through 3. It's kind of like the Wyoming.
Kind of like last week. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see Baylor coming out and like maybe being up at half.
Gotcha. I think Texas will after last week they'll kind of maybe get back on track here, and again start a conference play. They want to get off on the right foot, and then looking ahead just slightly. I mean, it's like they've got a big one coming that first weekend in October. So it's like they want to start off conference play on the right foot, get everything going as they start building that head of steam towards the Cotton Bowl.
That's the Oklahoma game, isn't it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
How are you going to be that weekend? You going to be okay?
No, I mean it's like whatever. I mean it's funny. People always 49-0, and it's just like we got beat. What do you want me to say? It's like, I mean this year it will be, I think, more competitive. Again, I'm very curious to see how everybody goes in their conference opener because it's like, okay, this is where we really start to see who these teams are.
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road. You got to come out in your
Texas
conference
has
opener.
already proven it by beating Alabama. I mean, that I'm not taking that away from them. But conference play, it's like, okay, you've got 9 games. Can you get through this unscathed?
The only thing that beating Alabama bought them was a chance or the opportunity to slip up once.
Yeah.
Beating Alabama gave them the okay, basically, to lose one conference game. Because I think if they run through conference play with 1 loss and it's a close loss to, I don't know, Oklahoma, let's just say, and they win the conference, they'll still get into the playoff because they beat Alabama. Unless Alabama completely falls off the rails and ends up with a 6-6 season.
Right.
So that's what beating Alabama gives you a lot of things, but it gives you the out to say, maybe we lost to Oklahoma, but we beat the crap out of Alabama.
Gotcha. So you're that scenario being, they slip up once in conference play,
Right.
but still make it to the Big 12 championship
Right.
and win and everything. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I follow you.
I would, or if they go undefeated to the Big 12 championship, they lose the Big 12 championship. I think they could still make a case for making the
Kind of
college
almost
football
like
playoff.
a TCU, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's get to the Aggies real quick. They're playing Auburn to open up SEC play. They're 8.5-point favorites at home to the Tigers. How do you think that game plays out? I mean, Auburn so far, Cal, UMass, and Samford, and they beat Cal by 4. So I think that the Aggies are going to roll.
Yeah, and the Aggies for me are still an unknown entity because
I don't even think Jimbo knows.
well, it's like they look good against New Mexico and whoever it was that they had this past
Last week,
weekend, UL Monroe, Louisiana Monroe, but they failed the test against Miami. So it's like, yeah, you look good against the Cupcakes, check, you're doing what every SEC team does, but it's like you play in the SEC, so it's like prove it, So it'll be interesting to see how the Aggies look this weekend. With the offense has looked good when it's been on, but again, it's like I just don't know.
Well, their defense just sucked against the Canes. They were
Yeah.
horrible. And I mean, last year I think this game was 13-10, Auburn over the Aggies, and Auburn won that game because they ran 55 times for 270. So as long as the Aggie rush defense can step up a bit, I mean, and Auburn had Tank Bigsby, which is obviously a big help for them, but I think that the Aggie, I mean, I hate believing in the Aggies, I really do, because they just seem to disappoint all the time. But I really think that they should win this game by 30. I think they're a much better team than Auburn is, but that's just me.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a coin flip because it's, they've looked good against the Cream Puffs, but now, again, when you get into conference play, it's a whole different animal.
So on the way out, I saw this graphic this morning, and I had to mention it. So how old are you?
30. I'm turning 33.
Okay.
This year.
I'm 28. So, or I'm turning 28 this year. That means in 2009, this might be a little bit more apt for me than you.
Okay.
However, the lineup for Nickelodeon in 2004, September 21st in 2004, the lineup was Hey Arnold, Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy Neutron, Rugrats, SpongeBob SquarePants, Dora the Explorer, Blue's Clues, Drake and Josh, all that, and then the Amanda Show. What a who's who of shows, but obviously you're 5 years older than I am. So what was your go-to cartoon when you were a kid?
Okay, so didn't have cable growing up, so going to grandma's house was always the best. So yeah, because Nickelodeon. Hey Arnold, yeah, I'd say from that list, but I'm definitely classic guy. So like Scooby Doo, is always a good one. Dexter's Laboratory. Come on. I mean, that was the best. So
I don't know why, but in Dexter's Laboratory, I have that one episode. There's one episode that always sticks in my head, and it's like forward, reverse, forward. I don't know why he had this invention, and he had to go. Someone kept pressing the button. But out of that list, Fairly Odd Parents was my favorite.
That one was up there.
Fairly Odd Parents was great.
Yeah, I didn't get into that one too much, but yeah, the Fairly Odd Parents were funny because they could like transform or something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, they can just grant any wish that they wanted.
Right.
I had learned this about my wife the other day, that her parents, who are very religious, and I love both of them very much, but they didn't allow Jordan or her siblings to watch Fairly Odd Parents or SpongeBob SquarePants. Because they just didn't. They thought it was too edgy.
Sheltered life.
They were very sheltered.
But SpongeBob now, like looking back on it now, like all the little stuff that they drop. Yeah, it's just kind of like they were almost like Ren and Stimpy a little bit, a new age Ren and Stimpy, because like Ren and Stimpy and Counted Chicken. Like there were some things in there where it was just kind of like, oh man, this is a kid's show. Like wow.
Well, I mean, I think the writers were just like, what can we put in here that kids won't get, but their parents definitely understand?
Yeah, well, and the king of that was Robin Williams. I mean, it's like he could, he fit in so many references. There's one in Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm not going to repeat it, but there's one in Mrs. Doubtfire where it's just like it got past everybody. And it's, it's just amazing.
Well, it's the brilliance of comedic writing. But I saw that this morning on Twitter while I was doing that thing where you wake up and scroll with one eye open before you want to get out of bed. And I was like, damn, September 21st, 2004 was on fire. That was a great lineup after school.
But so for my money from that lit, Hey Arnold, but then also if I could add one, I mean, Scooby-Doo. You can't pass up Scooby-Doo.
You can't pass up Scooby-Doo. When I got home from school, I would either turn on Nickelodeon or I would turn on Stump the Schwab on ESPN with Stuart Scott and the sports trivia show, where they would try and stump Steve Schwab. You ever watch that?
No, I didn't watch that one. For me, the after-school program was always Supermarket Sweep or Family Feud.
Family Feud.
So that was
pre-Steve Harvey. Family Feud.
The mid-afternoon game shows after school where it's just like you get home, you watch Supermarket Sweep. No, it's right there. don't you're in the wrong aisle. No,
you're in the wrong aisle. Well, I just saw that and I figured, we can talk about that for a second. It's a good way to close it out. That's all we got for you today. Heck of a weekend for Texas teams and Texas football. We'll be back on Monday breaking down the happenings from the weekend. Don and Chuck will be back as always. All overreact. Don will be the wet blanket, and maybe Chuck will learn how to use a QR code.
Oh my gosh! Shots fired from.
He doesn't know how to use one. Well, kind of. We're getting him there.
Okay.
Apparently, Don has been using a lot of QR codes lately because he switched to YouTube TV, and so now he has to sign into everything. So he's getting really, really advanced with these QR codes.
There it is.
You know? Right. They both have podcast apps on their phone now. They've come a long way.
Okay. Well, credit to you for getting them up to speed.
No, credit Mike Seifert.
Okay. That's fair.
Remember, you can download this podcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please download, rate, review, subscribe, give us some feedback. We'll see you on Monday in the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. Have a good weekend. Go Devils. Drew Pine's starting this weekend for the Devs. So
beat the Trojans.
It's not going to happen. We'll do our best. See you next week.